Now everyone will take me seriously. Hi there, welcome back to the shop. Once again, it's Mike. I have been a bit ill for the past 2 weeks. More to the point, I've been extremely ill. So ill that I actually haven't been able to do a whole lot except feel terrible. So I haven't been able to film a whole lot, and because of the pandemic, the electronics that I need to finish my Belter vac suit from The Expanse, which was, I did the helmet in the last video, has had to have been put on hold because I can't finish it without those electronics. And the company Adafruit, I'm very low on the priority list because they are shipping a lot of stuff to medical equipment providers, and obviously they take a much higher priority. So in the meantime, I'm going to take a look at a piece of equipment that I got in the mail the other day, which is actually this. It is a AnyCubic Mega Zero, and you've probably seen advertisements for them on Facebook and Instagram. I rarely ever pay attention to Facebook or Instagram advertisements because you scroll past them and they have autoplay and they're always really loud. They never default to mute, and it's terrible music and nothing that I'm interested in. However, about a week ago, I was perusing the old Facebook and the advertisement for this popped up and it said $150 printer. I looked at their website and I thought, let's go read some reviews, and then I thought better against it. Why not make my own reviews? So sight unseen, knowing absolutely nothing about them, except for the fact that it doesn't have a heated bed and it's very much like an Ender 3 in that its build area is very similar to a Creality Ender 3. I went ahead and I ordered one, and it took a week to get here, and it was $150 shipped. Now, as a comparison, the very basic Ender 3 is, I think, $179 plus shipping. So these are less expensive, but the Ender 3 has a heated bed. This one does not. Adding a heated bed to this would probably be plausible, but I print a lot in PLA, so that's really not that big of a deal to me since you don't really need a heated bed for PLA. So I'm going to unbox this guy and give you all of my initial impressions exactly as they are, because I know nothing about this printer. I mean, obviously I do now since it's built in front of me, but in the process of unboxing, I had never read a review. I knew nothing about it, and all I did was put it together and run a test print, this little owl on a log, and we will see just exactly what it's like from my perspective anyway, and then yeah, and then you guys can make your own decisions. And if you choose to order one, there'll be I'll put a link in the description below if you want to order one. This is not a paid advertisement. I paid for this thing. AnyCubic did not send me this. They are not involved in this in any way, shape, or form. However, if AnyCubic wants to send me stuff to review, I'll totally do it. Now let's open up this box and have a look at what's inside and put it together and then test it and make it run and see how good it prints. Let's see if it was worth the money. Can't think of anything else to say. Let's do it. All right, so I had already opened the box, clearly. But got a piece of foam. And you got your little instruction manual here. And it just folds out. It's pretty concise. I looked through it yesterday, and it seems to be pretty self-explanatory, but it seems to work. It also has a hole in it. Not sure what caused that. Little card. This is their inspection card. And now, aluminum extrusion. Let's take a drive rod. Power cable. The accessory packet. It's got a little bit of filament in there too. That's useless. Something. Another scraper that's just as it feels honestly just as weedy as the ones that come from Creality, except it's flat-nosed. It doesn't have a ground edge. That's not going to be very helpful. As for the spool, this looks like, oh dear. There's your hot end and the trapeze for it. And then your control box, AnyCubic. That looks like the extruder. The extruder, this is interesting. the extruder is clear. I guess so you can see if there's a clog. Maybe because it was just cheaper to do it that way. A couple of stepper motors. I think that's it for this level. Got a couple of more extrusions. Big old piece of foam. I'm guessing the base of it with the work bed. Yes. And all the foam you could ever want. That's it? Yep, that's it. Okay. Well, there you go. That's everything that was in the box, minus the foam and plastic bags, of course. You have all of the parts laid out here, and looking at it and just first impression, I'm slightly worried about the all plastic extruder, although we're straight out of the box, and I'm using the Ender 3 as a comparison because I have a couple of Ender 3s, and I've built several of them at this stage, and they're mostly plastic as well, so I guess my reservation is a little misplaced. Although I do kind of think that it's neat that it's clear plastic. But let's bring the camera around so you can see the stuff a little bit closer, and then I'm already seeing some quite obvious advantages to this versus the Ender 3, just from the perspective of parts layout and then preparation for build. Now, right off the bat, one of the biggest things that I noticed, one of the quickest things I noticed actually that's an advantage over Creality and the way they ship things, is that each of the individual fasteners types are labeled, whereas with Creality you basically just get a bag full of fasteners. And they're often the same size, but even when they're not the same size, they're not really marked as to what they are. And you get quantity and size and type, and that's great. And everything is individually packaged. Now with Creality, you don't often see the stop switches individually bagged or removed, which that's something new. And then these are almost always attached as well. So that's also new to me as far as my experience with printers, which my experience with printers largely covers Creality products. I don't really have any other printers besides that. Yeah, that's not so bad. The parts look nice. The parts look clean. They look well machined. I'm not seeing dents or any missing finish to them. None of the finish on it seems to be worn off. It all seems to be in pretty nice shape, and for 150 bucks, it's not too bad. And this is $150 shipped. This wasn't $150 plus shipping. So, and you get and your little spool holder has AnyCubic written on it. That's pretty neato. All right, well, I guess let's put this guy together. Step 1. This guy, be sure to put these two holes forward over on this side, because that's where one of the stepper motors attaches to, apparently. Now this other side, this other extrusion, the vertical extrusion, doesn't have any accessories attached to it, so you can go in any direction with that, it seems. That's that sorted. This is a little user unfriendly. Oh, that's interesting. So there's not a whole lot of clearance, pretty obviously, when it comes to this. And this thing was assembled once before, and I will move the camera in so you can see it. See those little tooth marks right there? I just put this screw in, and it actually made contact with the top of the stepper motor. And it's done so once before, so this thing may have been assembled for testing, probably for testing. But there's not much clearance there, so you get to start out with this thing getting chewed on already by its fasteners. So that's cool. So when you put these screws in, the two M4 25mm screws that hold in this motor, you're going to have resistance, and the resistance is going to be caused by it chewing on its own self. It's cannibalizing itself, man. It's eating itself up. Now the instructions make it clear that this thing cannot tilt. So, wow, really, that's, yeah. I would say that that's a negative of this, because that makes it very, very hard to line these fasteners up, because I could see that easily running the risk of cross-threading. And cross-threading in these extrusions is unpleasant. I've had it happen once before, and I've actually had to drill out a fastener once before in these, in one of the, well, in a Creality printer. And fortunately, I have the tooling to do that, but not everybody does. So that's a negative mark against AnyCubic, I think. Now the rod goes on. This thing ought to be plenty disgusting and greasy. Now for some, this is going to seem like pretty basic information, but for others, it's not. When you install a set screw generally works best on a flat side. Now it makes this quite clear in the instructions, but on your stepper motor here that you get to chew on with fasteners, it has one flat side to it. Yep, one flat side. You want the set screw to actually make contact with that flat side, because that's going to get you your best grip. Good consumer advice from Mike's Tiny Shop, I'd say. Now we'll install the gantry. Oh dear, that's gone poorly. That's remarkably simple, actually. Not a whole lot of wobble in the gantry. That's kind of cool. First time I put together an Ender 3, my gantry here would, all you had to do was push on it and one side would drop, and it was because one of these was out of center. But this one seems to be out of the box pretty good, actually. Remember, don't over torque. You over torque, you strip stuff out, and then if you make a mistake and you want to go back and fix it, you're kind of out of luck. All right, now to put on the Z-limit switch, which is what this little guy is. And he goes over here somewheres. Where does he go? Don't know. Hold that up, screwdriver. The Z-limit switch guy using some M416s. Where are my M416s? There they be. I have it confused. There's no fastener holes there. That's because this is the wrong side. Yeah, actually, it's this side. Look at that. Weird that there would just so happen to be holes where the instructions say there is. Peculiar. So we need 2 fasteners to do this. Now, you kind of need to be cautious about where you put these. It does have, if you can see them, little indents where this thing had been put together before and tested. So I'm going to start with that for positioning. Context clues. Sorry you all had to hear that. That's the wrong size. There's a joke in there somewhere, I think. I won't torque that down until I have the other fastener in. That's see, when I first put this Z-limit switch on, I didn't notice it at first, but now I do. This plate is curved. Now that's indicative of having been over torqued at the factory. I'm guessing whoever put this together to test it wrenched those down pretty hard. So we'll see if that position is correct. It may not be. It's entirely, might have to adjust it quite a bit. Now for our last extrusion, that goes up at the top. And if you look at it, if you can see these holes, I don't know if you can or not, but you've got 2 on either end, and those are for attaching to the top extrusion. But you also have 2 smaller ones, and that is for your spool mount. And that needs to go on this side, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it needs to go on the side of the stepper motor. So, like that. Pay attention, because I didn't. There's actually cutouts on the top here for the fasteners to drop into. And I did not pay attention to that, and I very nearly did that completely wrong. This is what a good review looks like. This is actually me figuring stuff out as I go, because I actually like to come at these sorts of things rather organically, because it gives a better indication of what someone who's never put together a printer before would experience, in so much that I'm not really going off of any experience that I have with this particular type of machine. Well, this specific brand. So I don't know anything about AnyCubic, truth be told. I just bought this thing on a whim. I didn't research it. I didn't look up any reviews. I really just sort of took a shot in the dark and ordered it because it seemed like a good idea at the time. Now, normally, like I said earlier, Facebook ads I ignore. I just ignore them because as soon as you scroll past them, they auto play with their extremely loud, annoying music, and it's rarely anything I'm interested in, though it seems like it should be since it's all based on cookies and everything else. AI trying to figure out what I want because AI is trying to take over, etc., etc. Well, they got me this time. They got me to buy a printer. It was the first time I've ever bought anything because of a Facebook ad. So, top marks Facebook ad professionals for figuring that out. Now, see that? I don't like that. It may be nothing. That may be some paranoia on my part. I don't know. It does move rather freely, though. It doesn't seem to be sticking at all. So maybe that'll be okay. Let's put on our spool holder. It would appear the extruder and the stepper motor all go on together. So when you install this, your plug for this motor should be facing that away. And then that gets installed there. And then you have three M338 millimeters, and they feed down from here into the stepper motor. Now when you're doing something like this where you're trying to attach two components together, don't torque one of them down, because you still need everything to shift around to line up your holes. Once again, good consumer advice right there. All right, now everything's threaded. Now you can torque everything down. Remember, don't over torque, because then you break everything. And also, this casing is made of plastic, and it will give before the fastener does. And the cable's coming out of the back here. You have your Z cable. And for your stop switch here, you have two little guys like that. And your red goes on the right, utmost. The blue goes to the far left. There is not a whole lot of play in these cables at all. That is very snug, actually. I don't particularly like that, but it's okay. And then for this last one, your Y-axis stepper is down underneath here. Then your Y limit switch, red on the right, blue on the left. Now we can attach the spool holder. E for extruder. X. Z. All plugged in. We have power. Switch it on. See if it works. It appears to work. Well, that's a problem. First time out the gate and homing failed. What did I do wrong? I would say that perhaps this limit switch didn't engage. Let's try that again. See if that happens twice. Move everything out of the way, make sure nothing's in the way. That's a problem. It disconnected that entirely. Those connections are extremely loose. I'm really surprised by that, how loose that connection is. See, this is why I don't like that there's so little play in this cable. Because there's no way to get it up over this and attach it to anything. Yeah, the moment it made contact with this limit switch, it unplugged everything. So it looks like I need to find a way to secure it to the frame. And this thing doesn't come with any zip ties, which is peculiar because every other printer I've ever bought comes with zip ties. And yeah, look at that's that's not cool. Look at the strain it's putting on this limit switch connection. Yeah, it just comes right out. That's not a good mark for that. I don't particularly like that. That's not a solid connection by any means. There's so much stress on this cable. It's actually bent the connector for the limit switch. That's like a banjo string. That is super tight. Any strain on that, any stress, any impact, any contact with it, it's just going to pop these connections off and bend this one again. So I'm going to have to zip tie it. I don't have a choice. I've got to zip tie that down so that it doesn't get caught. Now maybe, just maybe, this cable's slightly too short from the manufacturer. Maybe that's what that is. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt here, because I can't for the life of me see that that's a good idea. Yeah, and that's, to be honest with you, that's actually an unfavorable mark to AnyCubic there, because there's just so much risk of contact there. And the moment you put any strain on this, both limit switches get disconnected, or you damage the tabs on these limit switches, which means you're going to be replacing parts on it. So that's not the best. Not the best. Not the worst. 3.6 Roentgens. Not too bad. Not too good either. All right, let's try to home it again and see if it fails one more time. Oh. Also a problem. That isn't going to work. Oh, goodness. All right, one more time. Now, when you do put this together, I made this error, and hopefully I didn't damage anything in the process. I actually routed this cable over the top of the gantry, which is stupid. Don't do that. Run it in between these two. It must go through here. Otherwise, you will rip the wiring out, and hopefully I didn't damage anything. We'll see. That was my mistake. That was me not paying attention. So one more time, try to home this thing. I'm still not happy with how these cables are routed down here, because it seems like that's a lot of weak connections and stress. Now, because this thing has no heated bed, it's limited on what sort of materials you can put through it. And in this case, I'm using some Hatchbox PLA, 1.75 millimeter. Now, that's an unpleasantness. So this thing was run at one point. We know that at least it was assembled. If you look right there, you can see, it may not show up on camera, but there is a tiny plug of PLA stuck. That's not very good quality control. In fact, that's pretty lousy quality control, if you ask me. because that's going to be some super dried out to try to shove through the hot section, which also makes putting filament in this thing, threading filament, extra difficult. So once again, not a good mark for AnyCubic. So we will actually heat this thing up. Let's see if we can push that out. Some garbage white filament in there. It's pushed it all out now. Okay, let's see what test pattern they left on here for us. We have a wind nozzle and an owl. We'll go with the owl and print. See what she can do. And we will come back here in a little while. All right, 2 hours and 15 minutes later, the owl is complete. Now this is the spatula that comes with this, and I don't like how flat that is, and I don't think it's going to focus rather well. But there's no edge to that whatsoever, so it may. There was a lot of effort to get that underneath there, and I don't think that that's the best way to go about it. I think that this is not a very good spatula for this. But point is, the print. Make this guy focus. There we go. For a $150 printer, out of the box, no modifications, that's pretty damn good, actually. That's quite smooth. There's not a whole lot as far as missing layers go. In fact, I don't think there's any, truth be told. There's a little bit. But that's quite nice. I mean, for a cheap $150 printer, that's pretty good. I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of impressed. I didn't expect even this level of quality out of this. And this is just the test print that comes on the SD card of the little owl on a log. That's pretty good, truth be told. I'm kind of impressed with that. It's not bad. Not impressed with that, though. So there you have it. My opinion and unboxing of the AnyCube Mega Zero, which has actually a pretty metal name. And for an inexpensive 3D printer that doesn't have a heated bed and is a pretty basic machine, it's quite good. I was surprised. It does have a couple of little issues with it that I don't like. I don't like the way the X and Y stops connections are done. They're a little bit fiddly, and I do have some concern about them coming out or being disconnected quite easily. The instructions are a little vague in a couple places, but other than that, for an inexpensive printer like this, it's very, very good. I was quite impressed with the quality and the speed of the print. You are, of course, limited to materials because it doesn't have a heated bed, so you can do TPU, you could do wood filament, or PLA. As far as would I buy another one? Yes, I would probably buy another one of these, but I think that this would probably be the ideal printer for an educational setting, or for teaching your kids or young people how to use 3D printing and how to be involved with 3D printing. I think it's a great starter 3D printer. I think that it's a really good entry into the world of additive manufacturing. I would probably buy another one. In fact, I probably will buy another one of these because it is a pretty good printer for the price point. You're limited on materials, but I print a lot in PLA, so that's not that big of a deal, and I have a whole army of printers that do have heated beds, so I can use more exotic materials and not worry about it too much. But for making small parts or structural pieces, this would be great. I don't know how the detail is on this little model of an owl. It's quite nice. So it could print quite well. Thank you again for watching. Hopefully you found this video at least educational, if not entertaining. And hopefully it helps you make a decision on whether or not to buy one of the AnyCubic Mega Zeros. Again, there'll be a link below for you to purchase it. And once again, AnyCubic had nothing to do with this video whatsoever. This was entirely on my own. Hopefully in the very near future, Adafruit will be able to get sent to me my electronics that I need to finish up the vac suit, and we'll be able to finish those videos. Please check out my social media links below to check out the other work that I'm doing, and please consider Patreon to help support this channel so that I continue to make videos and buy random stuff off of Facebook, apparently. Once again, thank you again for watching. Cheers.